Don't look now. It's a fast turnaround for the Kansas City Chiefs. How do they get out front and beat the Dallas Cowboys? Well, it's doing what you just did today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. We are getting ready for a short week. Hope you're prepping for your Thanksgiving well. Thanks for making us your first listen here on Locked On Chiefs, your daily show for the Kansas City Chiefs. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, and that means your team every single day, everywhere, all the time. And now the #1 sports podcast network. We appreciate you being here. You everydayers are always here. We can't thank you enough. Thanks for making us this listen. Now go to another Locked On show once this one concludes. And Matt has dispensed his knowledge, as he always does. Matt Derrick joins us from Chiefs Digest today. And we're also brought to you today by FanDuel. New customers can get up to $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Go do that, and you can use it across the app. We'll tell you more about that coming up. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, where we run down the league from a metric standpoint, analytics first, but physiologically as well. NFL33.com, where we run down the rest of the league, and you can get my takes on those, as well as RGR Football, where we lock it down even more for your Chiefs. Chris is over at KC Chiefs Corner, where you can get him there on quarterbacks and metrics and everything. And Matt Derrick is our man on the ground at ChiefsDigest.com. Chiefs Digest here on the YouTube platform, and 41 is the Mike podcast. Gentlemen, it seems like we were just here. Oh, wait, we were just here. So I appreciate that. But we're going to consolidate a couple of things here as we get ready for this jump on Thanksgiving Day. And my question to you, Matt, this is maybe the quickest turnaround and maybe the tightest string that we've seen them go through in a number of years. There's some injuries. We're going to get into those. But as a team, as a whole, getting back after having knocked off what was the premier offense in the league for a bit, now you get another one that doesn't quite have a defense that I'm quite as scared of. But how do they reset, Matt, on this kind of like 3-day cycle to get down, have a simulated practice, 10-10-10, and another simulated practice that is basically nothing? How do they get ready for this?
Yeah, I asked that question particularly to Kareem Hunt today, because he had the 30 touches that he's going to be bouncing back from. And it's like, hey, how do you put it behind you? And how do you get ready to turn around again and play on a Thursday after having that much of a workload? And he was just like, you sleep, you get some massages, you get in the cold tub, and he's like, stay hydrated. That's pretty much. And he's like, stay off your feet. It's just be rest as much as you possibly can. I mean, they had one practice this week that was on Tuesday. It was a quick 10-10-10, 90 minutes. So nothing too strenuous. I mean, they're focusing on the game plan. That's what they're focusing on. And, you count on just what you did during the game as being kind of the exercise and the prep you need physically for this game, because by the time Thursday comes along, you're just hoping you're recovered from Sunday.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy for me to look at this and go, okay, they have to go into this game with all the injuries that they've been dealing with. Maybe they get Pacheco back. Maybe that's going to help out in this scenario and get them ready. They're not going to have Trey Smith. They're likely not going to have Noah Gray just because of the fast turnaround. I don't think you can get Noah Gray back because of the concussion. So you're going to be out those two players, and you're going up against the Dallas defense that hasn't been good. But they just got a new piece in Quinnen Williams, who's going to be basically probably inserted to go after the guy that Trey Smith is being replaced by. So you have a very tough task against this Cowboys offense, who is very good in and of themselves, before you even start talking about the Chiefs going up against the Cowboys defense.
Yeah, and and teams do this. I mean, last year there was a lot of focus on the fact that the NFL jiggered the schedule around so that the Chiefs could play that 3 games in 11 days, and the Saturday game, the Christmas Day game. But this is the same kind of time frame. But think about the opponents. You've got 2 games on the road. You're at Denver. You come home for the Colts, and now you're going at Dallas. I think this is a tougher turnaround than the Chiefs, than that 3 games in 11 days last year for the Chiefs around Christmas, just because of the 2 games on the road and the quality of the opponent. So opponents and all 3 of them. So I think it is a tough challenge. And you mentioned it, Chris. I mean, this is why I think that to a certain degree for both teams, this is going to be a bit of a scouting problem, because if you're the Chiefs, I don't know how much of the Dallas scouting report before Quinnen Williams really applies. I mean, I think you're almost just tossing all that out the window. I mean, all you're looking at really are the last 2 or 3 games as far as how do you get prepared for this defense. And, for the Chiefs, I mean, if you're the Cowboys and you're watching Sunday's game film and you're thinking about the Chiefs, you're like, oh man, you got to get ready because this team runs the football all day long. They're probably not going to do that, but I do think that was a little bit of the element with the game plan on Sunday from Andy Reid's standpoint was, what are you putting on film that the Cowboys are going to see, and what are your team is going to be running to set up for what you're going to run on Thursday. So I don't know what his grand strategy is and his grand vision. There's always something that Andy Reid sees as far as putting together game plans, because he's not the type to just game plan for one game in isolation. He's game planning knowing that he's got the Colts on Sunday and they turns around and faces the Cowboys. So I'm sure there's something that he put on film, some elements that he wanted the Cowboys to see so that he can play off of it on Thursday.
I think you're absolutely right. The question to me is who's going to be there to do that. I love the full backfield. You guys know that's one of my favorites. I don't think the personnel is going to be quite the same, but they might use it. They may not. That may be a decoy just to put on film last week. But my question, Matt, is from what little you've seen and what little we've heard, is Isaiah Pacheco going to be able to go? Are we going to have any possibility of seeing the new acquisition, Damian Pierce, or is it business as usual?
Yeah, I'm assuming that we are going to see Isaiah Pacheco this week. I mean, it's really hard to tell from the practice because, last week he was in a knee brace that I couldn't imagine anybody playing in. And, and now we've only got the one practice to go off of today on Tuesday to really make a judgment on what he's going to be doing. I mean, the Chiefs certainly are giving the impression that he is going to play. I don't know if that's a little gamesmanship. To just make the Cowboys prepare for the possibility, because it certainly still seems like, I mean, even if he plays, that he's not going to be 100%. And that Kareem is probably not going to be 100%. I don't get the sense that there's a lot of impetus about putting Damian Pierce in there quite yet. So I'm assuming that we're not going to be seeing him on Thursday. I think they want to give him a little bit more time to get acclimated. Tuesday was literally going to be his only workout with the team just because of the short week and everything. So I think that's going to slow things down. They don't even know what they have yet in Damian Pierce. So I think that's why they want a little bit more look at him. But does that mean we get more, Brashard Smith working into the lineup? If Isaiah doesn't play, is it another, Clyde Edwards-Helaire day? And then you got to factor in what's going on with Noah Gray, because that's going to impact you a little bit too. And you talk about, full backfields and everything. I mean, Chiefs like to put their tight ends in the backfield too. And if you don't have Noah Gray and now it's a Robert Tonyan and or a Jared Wiley game, that it affects your lineup.
And I wanted to ask you, do you think we'll see Wiley this week with Noah Gray out?
I mean, I'm hoping so as much for Jared Wiley as for anything else. I mean, I want to see him.
Right.
We haven't yet, and he's been there for that reason. And I was looking for him in the locker room today, and none of the tight ends were there. I think because of the short week, all the workout schedules are jiggered around, so I didn't get to see any of the tight ends. Didn't get to see Wiley, but I did talk to him a few weeks ago, and he mentioned that really after about the first 4 weeks of the season, he felt 100%, that he felt like he was ready to play and ready to go. So anytime that the club needed him, he was ready. So he's been doing scout team work, obviously, since then, and it's next man up mentality. That. But I firmly expect that we'll see him, because I can't imagine the Chiefs just going with 2 tight ends.
That wouldn't make any sense. But we also have to see how that fits into the rest of the weaponry that Patrick Mahomes has to use. I think the pass game is going to be emphasized. We're going to get to who, what, when, and where, and it is Patrick and probably Xavier right after this.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it because it also helps you correct your form in real time and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
There are two sides to every coin on every offense, and I think both these teams have emphasized the offensive side. I think the Chiefs had the advantage on the defensive side. We will get to that here shortly. But for Patrick Mahomes, particularly to kind of turn that game around last week against the Colts, you have to take some of that away, and you have to apply that going forward. I think what I was most concerned about, Matt, was 74 snaps for Xavier Worthy this week. That coming off of the previous ankle, and now it looks like he would have been ready to go this week. Is that your consensus as well, or is that also some trickery in the report?
And no, I certainly get the sense that Worthy is still there, but there's also no doubt, like we talked about in the postgame the other night, that Worthy was in a lot of pain and there was some frustration on Sunday. He came out a couple of times, and there was obviously the one play that we talked about that the Chiefs were what looked like might get flagged there for a second for an illegal substitution before the referees realized, no, I mean, Worthy just had something wrong with his ankle and went off the field and left him with 10 guys in the huddle. So, yeah, I think that's the only real concern to me is with Xavier. I think he's going to play. It's just, once again, how much is that ankle limiting him? Is it going to flare up during the game and pop up? I was really surprised. I mean, other than the Chiefs, it reminds me a little bit, and this is the worrisome part. It reminds me a little bit a couple of weeks ago when the Chiefs played the Bills, because the Bills were dealing with a lot of injuries, and they played everybody into that Chiefs game. They put everything they had into winning that game, and now you've seen what's happened. Now they're dealing with more injuries after that game, and they've gone into a little bit of a slide. If you're the Chiefs, you don't want Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce, and honestly, Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes tweaked his groin in the game on Sunday. Told me that it was on that kind of first run down there in in the fourth quarter, and then he had another run back-to-back plays that kind of tweaked it there. And we could see it. I mean, you could see it at the stadium that he was favoring that leg pretty well. He's still going to be dealing with that, and he kind of brushed it off today. I get that, but there's no doubt. I mean, that's going to be affecting him. He's on the injury report, so it tells you he's getting treatment for it. So everybody, it feels like in that offense is dealing with a little bit of something right now, and that's going to be a challenge for this team.
Well, and don't forget Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice has the hamstring injury, and he was a full participant as well. But how much is he going to be able to be productive and go into that game against Dallas? Because the biggest thing that you're going to have in this situation is Dallas is going to score points. Their offense is going to put up points. Kansas City's defense has been playing fantastic, but it's a different situation. And Ryan and I kind of talked about this yesterday, where the Colts have Jonathan Taylor, and he's a phenomenal running back, but they have Daniel Jones as their quarterback. It's not the same situation in Dallas. You have a running game that's going well, and Dak Prescott, who's playing well and has weapons on the outside. So you're going to be probably having to have a high-scoring game in this one, and Mahomes being injured with the groin, Worthy having injuries, Rice, I mean, Noah Gray is going to be out, and we know that, but the only healthy wideout that you really probably have right now, and it's kind of crazy, is Hollywood Brown, and that's one of those things where he's struggled to stay healthy his entire career. So this is going to be a big question as to how this is going to play out. And Matt, I have to ask, we look at all the weapons that Mahomes is going to have around him. How much do you think that there's a possibility that they look at anybody other than Caliendo to be that right guard to step in for Trey Smith?
Yeah, it looks like right now, I mean, the Caliendo is definitely the guy. So, I mean, there was obviously talk deal that Jalen Moore before the season could be a swing guy that could play any of those positions.
That's why I was asking.
Yeah,
they did it during training camp.
They did it during training camp, but they definitely want to keep Jalen in reserve to be the first guy that goes in there at tackle, and they don't want it to be a situation where if they have an injury at tackle, then they have to move Jalen to there and now put somebody else in. So, yeah, they've decided at this point that Caliendo is their number one guy, and then obviously that's in this situation, it's going to leave Hunter Norzad as your number two. I'll be interested to see what they do for their 8th offensive lineman because they benched Wanye Morris. He was a healthy scratch on Sunday, and you're going to need Norzad because of Trey Smith being out. So hey, they don't have a lot of options. I mean, they do have some guys on the practice squad, but would they bring up one of those guys, an Essa Pole or a Chu Godric rather than Wanye? I don't know. I don't know if that was a one game kind of benching for the blocked PAT. I don't know, but it'll be worth watching on Thursday to me.
It's definitely something they're going to have to pick up because this is maybe the key flaw here. Again, it leads back to everything else with Patrick with the groin, with the running backs beat up and maxed out. That O-line has to take over. And from my standpoint, the protection has to be there in place. I have serious concerns about Caliendo starting in that spot. I don't feel that necessarily that scenario where you want to go to a 6th offensive lineman, you have to move 2 at that point. I personally feel like that's not the concern. That you want your every down snap to be the best that it can be. I'm not convinced that this is a mistake here, Matt. How do you think that they will be able to roll with the punches should they need to if they find themselves in a situation where that offensive line is not gelling enough to get momentum against the Cowboys?
Yeah, there's one interesting thing about this to me that stood out to me a little bit of Sunday's game and watching it both live and watching the replays and breaking it down is that, because of that back injury that Trey was already dealing with, they'd already been kind of shading and giving him a little bit of support. There were a few times that he and Trey and Creed were double teaming some guys in situations that normally those would be a one-on-one situation for one of those guys. But they've been kind of giving Trey a little bit of support just because that back has been bothering him. So I don't know, a fully healthy Caliendo versus a really banged up Trey Smith. I mean, how much is that a little bit less difference than it would normally be? Probably. So maybe the Chiefs have already been making some of those adjustments, but you're right. I mean, this game in particular, it's going to be tricky because the strength of that Dallas defense is their interior, and it's going to be going up against the interior of the Chiefs offensive line. And honestly, I mean, this is going to be one of the first times that Kingsley has seen somebody like Quinnen Williams too. So, it's not like you really know how that interior is going to handle it. Creed's the only guy that you really got a pretty good judge. And honestly, even if you had Jalen in there, I think you'd have the same questions. And, remember, he's never played guard in an NFL game.
Yeah, I have to admit I chuckled because you say the strength of the Cowboys defense, and that just is kind of a misnomer to me with how they played so far this season. Obviously, they played better against the Eagles. We'll see if that continues against the Chiefs. I'm going to be really curious to see how protection ends up because when you start talking about Mahomes and his groin injury, him not being able to move, just not being able to move the way you would normally move in the pocket, not even necessarily running could be an issue. And having pressure up those up the gaps around the centers, not going in right in Mahomes' face is not going to be a good situation for him. But we're going to talk a lot more about this game and the different lessons that are learned for the Cowboys right after this.
The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game and you just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets that happen during the game. Everything for everyone who will score from the next point to the fourth quarter comeback. Plus, you can even combine them all into a same game parlay, take an even bigger shot at a payout. Keeps everything exciting. It keeps it up to the minute, especially when your team's making that late push. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So go ahead to FanDuel.com and sign up over at FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Now, you got to take things week to week. You can do that at ChiefsDigest.com. You can do it over at KC Chiefs Corner, NFL 33, or RGR Football. Every day you got to be here because we're here for you every day. We don't get mad every day. So I like to start and end with the segment that really leans, Matt, on your experience. And we know that game planning, especially in this little run here with these games back to back to back, game planning has to be spread out. It's not all one thing 1 week. But as you go through that process, you learn things about yourself and about your players and about what you're able to do. So if you're in that room with Andy Reid and Matt Nagy and all the rest of the offensive coaches in particular, what are the lessons from that ball game against the Colts that you want to move forward, if you can, to the Cowboys?
Well, one for sure should be that you got to keep running the football. You got to keep everybody honest. That's absolutely crucial. And
You just made Ryan's day.
I'm not as hardcore as some others. I know my guy Nick Jacobs over on our 41 is the Mic podcast. I think is ready to lead the campaign to burn all of the RPOs to the ground. I'm not quite that hardcore. I think there's still a place for them. But you've got to get away from being as predictable as the Chiefs were. I mean, that's how they got exposed on the interception and against the Colts. I mean, you gotta play against type a little bit, and so that's why I think leaning on the run is a particularly effective thing to do. It'll be interesting to see how the Cowboys will respond to what the Chiefs did against the Colts, if they're going to pack up the boxes a little bit more and maybe put an extra defender in there just in case the Chiefs do decide to lean onto the run. There were some things that the Cowboys could probably have learned from Lou Anarumo and how he defended the Chiefs for maybe 3 quarters. Patrick kind of figured things out in the fourth quarter. So I think there's some things that the Chiefs learned for the future that they can absolutely use. So yeah, and that's the thing is that, and that's why I say that these game plans are sometimes tied a little bit more closely than you think about, because with the short week, the Chiefs coaches were already working on Cowboys at the end of last week. So, they were kind of peeking ahead a little bit. And by the time that you put the game plan to bed on Friday for the Colts, that coaching staff was already moving on to the Cowboys, because you've got to start working on it. So like I said, I mean, these two game plans are kind of tied together a little bit just because the work on them is done at the same time. They're done in companion. So are we going to see some of the same concepts, or will we see some things done differently? And like you said, Ryan, I mean, there's some looks that the Chiefs showed on Sunday. I would love to see them again, and the different variations. I mean, the next time they run that Kelsey Wildcat quarterback play, I mean, there's about 18 different things they could do off that.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you bring that play up, because I was actually going to bring that up myself. And when you look at that specific play, I'm not going to say that Kelsey's going to throw the ball, but how do you change how many different variations of running different people in that scenario, or even just a pitch from Kelsey to Mahomes, who was behind Kelsey in that setup, I believe. There's just so many different variations of what you can do with how that play is going to be set up. I love the thought process there. And then one thing I will say about this Chiefs offense versus that Colts defense, and taking it forward to the Cowboys don't have the same type of corners that the Colts do. They don't have a Sauce. They don't have, Shavarius Ward, who didn't play great, but played better than what the Cowboys have. Yes, they have Deron Bland, who is fantastic at taking the ball away and returning it. Mahomes needs to be worried about that, but it's still not the same type of coverage. So to me, while the Cowboys can try some of the things that the Colts did, it's not going to be the same, because the Cowboys can't execute on the back end like the Colts have the ability to do. So I do think that that's going to play into this game. And I'm curious to see, as you said, Matt, do they continue to run the ball, and how do they change what they're doing when they run the ball? Because you're in a situation where you're going to go from Kareem Hunt as your running back, probably getting most of the snaps and most of the carries, to probably Pacheco if he's back and healthy. I know that Hunt may have kind of moved ahead of Pacheco in some ways on the depth chart in some people's eyes. I don't know that necessarily matters, mainly because Hunt had 30 carries against the Colts. You have to give him some time off, and you have to spread it out a little bit more.
Yeah, to me, I think that the question is, because the Chiefs, I mean, if we'll see what they do. I mean, if Pacheco plays, maybe it's going to end up being more 2/3 to Kareem than Pacheco, just to get him back in. So, I mean, is it going to be like Kareem gets 20 touches and Pacheco 10, or I mean, the Chiefs could dial things back dramatically, and all of a sudden it turns into another 12 touches for Kareem and 6 for Pacheco, and it becomes wildly unbalanced. But I think there's more likelihood that, hey, if the Chiefs are in that ballpark of like 25, 26 carries, and it's an even split, 13, 12 carries for both those guys, question's just going to be is, can they get to 100 yards together? The fear would be that if the Chiefs, with the fact that their run game hasn't been exactly efficient, I've finally settled on describing Kareem's effort as brutally productive. It was not efficient, but it got the job done. I mean, if you're going to get 25 carries, are you only going to, those two guys going to combine for 75, 80 yards?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really do that. I mean, they need more production from those two guys, even if they're in limited roles.
Well, the bigger thing on that, really quick, is, to me, I thought they ran the ball better in the first half with Trey Smith. When Calino came in, it went down a little bit, and I do think that could play into how this is going to go against the Cowboys. Sorry, I don't know who I interrupted.
Well, and they need that because they need to occupy it. The opposite is true as well. And defending Jonathan Taylor is different than defending Javonte Williams, but it's a similar concept. They're going to run at him. I think it was 88 yards for him on the ground last week. And here's the key, and this is what defensively I think that they have to key in the same way that they keyed in for the Colts, is to take that run away first so they can kind of set it back a little bit from the play action. Jake Ferguson is deadly when they're running play action. They're going to get targets. And despite what I think was a good effort against Warren last week, the rookie tight end from Indy's squad, I think Jake Ferguson has a little bit more to offer against exploiting the Chiefs secondary, especially the safety group. So that whole thing works together, Matt. That's probably my primary concern about game scripting, is to take away that run, to take away the play action. Is there something I'm missing?
No, I think you're on target there. And, and the thing that scares you, I think, the most, obviously, about the Cowboys are their targets, are Dak's targets, because he's got, obviously, some really good receivers. Now, he's also got some receivers that you might be able to, at least with Pickens, kind of push his buttons a little bit. And he didn't practice on Tuesday, so I don't know how much of that is just, giving him a little bit of rest because it's a short week. But, you got to be prepared for that. And what I mean, here's where I think it's going to be a real challenge for the Chiefs, because Dak is, I think a lot of people always think of him just being the athletic guy that he is, but he's not a running quarterback, and especially at this point in his career. I mean, he can scramble if he has to, but that's the last thing that he wants to do. And so, hey, how aggressive is Spagnuolo going to be as far as trying to get some pressure on him and going after him? Is the rejuvenated Chris Jones that we saw against the Colts going to be able to pour it back in on Thursday? If that's the case, maybe you get a little bit more production from your front four. But if the Chiefs have to pressure Dak and you start getting a lot of single coverage, whomever Trent McDuffie is not on might have a day, and Pickens is the guy to watch, because I think the Cowboys can create some mismatches with him when he's not lined up against McDuffie.
Well, it's going to be interesting to me to see how the Chiefs decide they want to go with their backfield this time, because Christian Fulton, I think, played one snap against the Colts. Chris Roland Wallace played a ton. Maybe he's going to be available. Maybe he won't. We don't know right now. He was limited in the Tuesday practice, so we'll see on that one. But Noel Williams really didn't play. So how are they going to continue to go with that? With their CBs, and how are they going to deal with that? And then, you look at the Colts game and what you learn from that at the very end. Steve Spagnuolo blitzed almost every third down, I think, in the late third and fourth quarter. Like, he was blitzing just about every single third down. That's how they got pressure. That's how they got Daniel Jones off kilter and were able to get the ball back for Mahomes in the offense. I don't know that you can do that every single time against Dak Prescott, especially with the weapons he has, because they're going to have the hot reads. They're going to have things in place to be able to attack those blitzes. So I think that that's going to be a problem. But I will say, without Tyler Guyton, you have to get pressure from the left side of the line. You have to take advantage of their backup as their left tackle.
Yeah, there's a couple areas that you heard the Chiefs, you absolutely have to attack. And the Kansas City secondary is really interesting to me. I mean, I think we're getting to the point where I think you can accept the fact that, I mean, Spags and Dave Merritt, they're just not comfortable with anybody outside of McDuffie and Jalen Watson. And so as a result, and once again, I mean, Shamari Connor, I think they've accepted the fact is not necessarily the best matchup against everybody in the slot. So that's why you're seeing Chris Roland Wallace now sometimes be that option so that they can use those guys a little bit interchangeably. At the beginning of the season, to me, it looked like that Chris Roland Wallace was just kind of being groomed to be the backup for Shamari Connor if they were to lose him, because, I mean, let's face it. I mean, this Chiefs safety group for sure, but a big part of their pass coverage, for better or for worse, is built around Shamari Connor's existence. And if you lost him, that's what Chris Roland Wallace was kind of there for to me. Now you've seen it change. I mean, now it's evolving to the point where when they're going with matchups and they're deciding, who's the best player to play that week in a particular matchup, it's not the decision about, hey, is it Noel Williams or Christian Fulton or Kevin Knowles or door number 3 as the best third corner. It's who's the best safety to put in the slot on whomever the slot guy is that week you're facing, because you're just going to put Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie on the outside, and it's going to be Connor or Roland Wallace on the inside.
That makes perfect sense. And hopefully we will see that settle down and perform well on Thanksgiving Day. Matt, thanks for setting us up for a good Turkey Day. I hope that you guys all enjoy your days. And Matt, I hope you have a great holiday yourself.
I hope you all do. It was very gobble, gobble, gobble. That's all I can say at this point.
We will be saying that post game as well, folks. We will have a nice, tight show for you after the ball game so you can get to your dinner and we can get to ours. Matt, thank you for your time and being with us always.
Always great to be here, my friends.
Have a good one, folks. Get ready for that bird, ham, or whatever you happen to be cooking. We'll probably have some excerpts here floating around as well. So get ready for your holiday. I hope that you have a great one, and we will talk to you not only for the crossover, but for that post game. Have a good one. We'll talk to you tomorrow.